them. And what I always say is a brand is really only what's staying in other people's minds about your business. Do you know what that is? And are you in control of that? So you're winning at branding your business when other people are saying and thinking the things that you want them to about your business. But we'll get to that in a minute. So hi, I'm Ailsa. It's really nice to meet you. I'm Ailsa Stinson from B is for Brand. That's my company name. And I help small business owners of any variety. It doesn't matter what sector you're in, I can help you to, first of all, understand what a brand actually is, and then work out what your brand is, and then teach you how to use that to grow your business. That's the main thing that my business does. I also have a marketing service newly launched as well. So if you can't be bothered to do it all yourself, I can also do it for you. That's my new service. That came about because every customer that I worked with asked me to go ahead and do their marketing afterwards, and I can't do it all myself. So I now employ people to do that. Anyway, back to the whole brand shenanigans. So I worked in London for an agency. Worked on lots of big brands, some you might have heard of, like Lexus and Mitsubishi, AXA, French Provident, NFU Mutual, those kind of brands. I went all over Europe working on projects, and a lot of the time I was thinking, actually, this is bullshit. Pardon my swearing. Yeah, there was a lot of hot air going on, a lot of confusing the customer and making people feel that it was more complicated than it really needed to be. And that is how B is for Brand was born, because I thought, well, there's a gap in the market to actually explain this really clearly, so that the business owner can take control and can feel that they can do it themselves if they really want to. So that's how my business came about. And so, so I talk about brand being what stays in the minds of other people. And I try to help you understand how you can control that. So I've got a little presentation. I'm just going to screen share. Get to my presentation. There we go. Whoops, better put it on the full screen. Sorry. Tech and sharing screens and things is not my forte. There we go. Anyway, so in order to help you, yeah, that's me. Okay. So you want to know what other people are thinking about your business. And if you don't know, it's time to find out, and it's time to take control of that. It's time to help other people remember what you want them to remember about your business. Okay, so here's a little framework. I think this is a very sophisticated audience that we have here tonight, because as you went around the room, you all mentioned different things. Now, quite often when I meet people, they just think about the visual identity of the brand. They think about the logo. Maybe they know it's a bit more than the logo these days. They know its color scheme. Maybe they introduced the term social media there. But usually they don't really understand all the elements of a brand. So the easy way to remember everything that's contained within a brand is to think about strategy and image and experience. And if you take away one thing from tonight, it's that I would like you to think about. And Carl pretty much nailed it when he described the conversation he was having with his son, because he said, you know, it's about being known for something. That's where your strategy comes in. What do you want to be known for? You have to work that out and write it down on a bit of paper. So what do you want people to think about when they think about your business? What words do you want them to use when they're talking about your business? That's what you write in your strategy. And you also write about your goals in there. So not just the next few years, but actually the mission to Mars. Where do you want to be in 30 years' time? And then also in there, we talk about personality and values, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the first bit is strategy, and it sounds like Carl's all over that. He knows that he wants to be known for certain things, and he's communicating that with his son. The second bit is your image. So image has two elements to it, and we often forget that these things are both part of the image. So your image is the visual identity, so the logo, the colors, the pictures that you use, and it's also the words. So I actually simplified that, and I talk about your image being words and pictures. So if you're thinking about how you portray your business, you need to think about the words that go into talking about your business and the pictures, and you put those together, and together they make the image. And that can be many, many things. Where do you get those words from, and how do you decide what's in those pictures? Your strategy helps you to do that. So if you write a strategy, you write it down, it's much, much easier to make decisions about what to do with the words and the pictures and the logo, all that kind of thing. Here's someone wanting to come in, Stuart. And then the third element of a brand is the brand experience. And Carl alluded to that again as well. It's about, you know, how you want to make people feel and how you treat people and what they're going to remember you for in that process, because you're going to enter into a process with your customer. And in your case, for most of you, that's going to be quite a long process, because you're maybe building an extension or a house for them, or dealing with their property sale. Or in Tony's case, you're dealing with them on a long-term basis as a coaching client. So they're having an experience as part of that. And actually, experience has two audiences. It has obviously your customers, which I've just talked about, but also experience starts with your staff. So presumably, as building companies, you do have staff. And if you forget about the staff, what happens is the brand falls apart, because they're not delivering the experience you really want them to the customer. So if you write down in your strategy how you want your brand to be perceived, and write some simple words and ways of doing things in that strategy, then communicate that to your staff, then you can start to create a consistent experience. And the customer, it doesn't matter whether it's you know, this customer or the other customer or the next one, they're all getting a consistent experience. So your brand can be used to control that. Moving on. Okay, so I talked about consistency there. I've mentioned being clear, clarity. So I actually have 4 C's that I talk about. So these are the 4 C's of building a strong brand. So the framework you want to use when you're building a brand is strategy, image, experience. And if you remember that, if you keep thinking, okay, what is my brand? Well, it's the strategy, it's the image, it's the experience. Have I worked all those things out? Yeah. If the answer is no, then you need to start working on that. You start working on your strategy, or looking at your image, or developing your experience. You do the strategy first, it guides the other 2. But then this is how you do it. Okay, so you need to be clear. You need to have clarity. You need to sit back and think, okay, am I being clear? Is my strategy clear? Do I understand it? Do my staff understand it? Do the people that I'm trying to connect with understand what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to achieve that? And it's harder than you think. I was in a mindset, a mastermind group today, and people were telling me that I don't speak clearly enough. That's how hard it is. I spent all day teaching people about how to be clear. And people were saying, well, I don't understand what you mean by clarity. Unpack it more. Give me an example. So I'm going to give you some examples tonight about how to be clear. Okay, so clarity, being really clear about your message, talking to your customer about the problems that you solve for them. Okay, we'll maybe get to that a bit more in a bit. Consistency. Consistency is very, very hard to achieve, but it's also super important. Consistency of your message, so the things that you're saying, repeating the same things again and again. If you say lots of different things, people forget what you said and they can't repeat it. The aim of the game is to say the same thing over and over, so that you become a parrot and other people can then pick up on what you're saying and they can repeat it for you. And that's going to save you money, because if you can get other people to get your message out there for you, you don't have to pay to get your message out there. You don't have to pay as much. So that's creating brand ambassadors, basically getting people to be clear on your message and you saying it consistently so that they say it the same way that you say it. Another C, I'm going to skip creativity and go to control. So writing things down. I am a massive, massive fan of writing things down. Stuart and I were having a little chat before you guys all arrived in the room. I can't see what that said, Stuart, that you waved in my face, but anyway, we were having a little chat.
Writing everything down, that's all.
Oh, writing it down. Oh yeah, right, yeah, good job. we were having a little chat about exit strategy. So if you think that you might sell your business at the end of the day and go off and join Richard Branson on Necker Island or whatever you fancy doing, your brand becomes really, really important, because your brand is a tool that adds value to your business. And the more you have written down around your brand, the more value that you add. And especially when it comes to that strategy that I'm talking about, because that is something that you can then sell to the person who's buying your business. You can say, this is our way, this is what we believe in, these are our goals, this is the values, this is all the things that we do, this is how we bring our business to life. And if you've got that written down and then you've actually started to use that in your business, you can demonstrate that it works, and that adds value to the business. The same goes for your visual identity. If you have guidelines, strict guidelines that you are consistently implementing, then that builds strength into your brand. It helps people to view you more professionally. It helps them to view you as a big player. It helps them to think that you're equal to all those other companies that they're looking at out there. But it also adds value because it's something that you can sell, because it takes a long time to develop a good visual identity that's very consistent. And especially these days, because there's so many channels that we can use. You know, it's not just about the logo and what colors you're using and what fonts you're using. When you start to create loads of marketing material or appear on LinkedIn or Facebook or do some advertising or, you know, produce some brochures, if you can get everything being consistent, following rules, then you will really add value to your business. And the final C is creativity. Don't be afraid to stand out from the crowd. Don't be afraid to zig when everybody else is zagging. You don't have to look like everybody else in your sector. Don't be afraid to do something a little bit creative to help you stand out from the crowd. And I'll show you an example of that in the building sector just towards the end of this presentation. Okay, so I keep going on about brand strategy, and here I am using jargon saying that I was going to talk clearly to you, and I'm using the word strategy, strategy, strategy all the time. So what's actually in my version of a brand strategy? This is the B is for brand version of a brand strategy. It's pretty simple. You should be able to fit it on one piece of A4 paper. This is not War and Peace. This is a working, living document that if you can answer these things, then keep it on your desk, keep looking at it. It will help guide your business decision making. It's not just about the marketing, and it's not just about what the business looks like. It's about choices that you make as you grow and develop your business. So you obviously start with every brand needs a name. Yeah, your business has already got a name, but are you being consistent about that name? Because sometimes I come across businesses who aren't even getting that very basic thing right. There's different versions of their logo, there's different versions of their name. Sometimes they shorten things. Sometimes they're using their old version of their logo. Sometimes they're using a slightly different name or a different tagline. People can easily get confused. So you need to audit that, look at everything and go, okay, have I got a single name here? And sometimes you develop different services for your business and you started to call them different things. And that's when you get into the territory of what I call brand architecture. So you might have a single brand with one name. That's me. B is for brand. That's all I talk about. It's just B is for brand. But you might actually have some sub-brands within that as well. Or you might have created some different brands for product lines that you've developed or that kind of thing. Now, there are 3 strategies that you can follow: single brand or house of brands, which is like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Unilever, where they've got loads of different products and they all look totally different from each other. And the reason they're doing that is to saturate the market. They want to have every soft drinks drinker, every washing powder customer, every shampoo customer, and they create products that appeal to different parts of the market. That is a very expensive strategy. You've got to have deep pockets because each one of those brands needs its own brand budget, brand team to run it, brand marketing. Everything is independent, but they will cover the whole market and they'll be the winners in their sector. The middle one is branded house. So if you have more than one, but the most simple one as a small business is to have a single brand and stick to it and only talk about one brand. But if you do have other products and services, it's best to create a branded house, unless your exit strategy involves you selling that part of the business and keeping the other part. So there's a decision-making process to go through there. So the branded house is where you use the same colors, the same naming strategy. So you follow a pattern with the name, the same typefaces, the same kind of whole voice image that works, right? You can even use the same website, you can use the same social media, and it keeps it nice and compact, and it's not too unmanageable for a small business owner. But you maybe have different target markets. But what you can do is, obviously there's synergy between those brands. One can help sell the other, because maybe they're not exactly the same, but they might know a customer the same and they can make a recommendation, or they might not need that service right now, but they might need it later. And then they'll recognize, and you'll get the kudos from the work they did with your other brand. So branded house is that really is a way to keep everything as tight as possible when you need to have different names for different services, because you've got different target customers. Okay, so that's where you begin with the naming strategy and the architecture of your brand. Obviously, you need to think about your customers and your competitors, but I don't really fuss that much about competitors. I'm not all that bothered about competitors, because if what you're doing really well, it doesn't really matter what your competitors are up to. There's enough customers for everybody. The goal is for you to do as well as you can, the best you can, to be authentic and to put across what your business is all about, and you will find your tribe of customers that way. But you need to know who it is that you're trying to target. You need to really, really know who they are and really understand what problems you're solving for them and what motivations they have to work with a company like you. And those are the things you need to speak to. Think about your customer as the hero of the story, and you are the guide in that story. So where a lot of businesses go wrong is they talk endlessly about themselves and how great they are and how many awards they won and all the different services they have. And they forget to talk about the thing that the customer went on Google to find. So your customer, if they're coming across you via a website or via personal recommendation, they have talked about a problem. They've Googled builders who build extensions, or find me a local builder, or new house builders, or something like that. They are trying to find the people who can help them solve the problem. The problem being they want to build a new house, or they want to build an extension, or they want to renovate an old building, or whatever that might be. So they have gone on looking for someone to help them solve that problem. And so you need to speak to the actual problem they've got. The problem they've got is a wee bit deeper than that as well. There's emotion in there too. And especially in the building sector, sometimes the emotions can be around things like honesty and trust, and really feeling like the job's going to get done on time, or that it's going to be a stress-free process for them, and all those kind of things. Okay, so you need to know who your customers are and what their kind of emotional pain points are. The next thing in your brand strategy is, I like to start with the big goal. Normally people say start with why, but I say start with the big goal. The big goal is 30 years from now. Now you might be thinking, Ailsa, I'm not going to be in this business in 30 years. I still want you to plan that far ahead. Yeah, because the business is not you. And maybe if you're just working on your own at the moment, or there's just two of you, whatever, it does feel a bit like the business is you, but you add value to the business by planning for it beyond you being in it, because then you've got a package that you can sell. So think about that 30-year goal and imagine that every door was opened, everything went amazingly well, and it all turned out well in the next 30 years. What does that actually look like for you? Yeah, think about that, write that down. That's where you're aiming for. And now you've got a point in the future that you can align your people around. And as you recruit, you can say, this is where we're heading, this is what we want to achieve. Are you up for that? And this will help you in your recruitment strategy, because some people say, no, I'm not up for that. I don't want to work for you because I don't want to go in that direction. Great, I'm glad I found out now before I started paying you. And then you'll find the right people who are up for that mission, who share that vision with you and want to be part of that journey. And then that why statement, this is about what change you're going to make in the world. This is the emotional bit, really, as well. Operating with purpose. Something that's more than making money, and people buy into that. People don't. Simon Sinek is a big speaker in America, if you've heard of him, and he's a business coach, and he talks about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And you might be thinking, oh, that's not true in the building trade. It is. It's true in every market. People will buy into why your company does what it does, and they'll buy into those transitional reasons. So what is the change you can make in their life? So taking them from a house they hate and they think they want to move to a dream home that they never want to leave, and the life they'd always imagined. Yeah, it's that transformation that you can take them through, to take them from this painful place to a place where they really have what they want and feel satisfied. So that's kind of the what bit of writing a brand strategy. And then there's the how you do it. So I'm telling you all the same thing. So you could all go off and write the same brand strategy, but then that wouldn't help you to stand out from the crowd. So how you stand out from the crowd is to bring personality and values into this. Yeah. It's quite complicated, and it's the thing that I get most pushback about. People say, oh, personality, that's, no, we're B2B, or, oh no, this is a serious business, or, you know, we don't deal with the kind of people who would want us to have personality, or whatever. I get lots of objections to the idea of personality. Brand personality is a really powerful tool that can really help you to connect with the right customers. It doesn't have to be a silly personality or an outrageous personality. Your personality could be sage, for example. So sage means knowledgeable. So you could come across as very knowledgeable on your subject, so that people go, oh, actually, I trust them because they seem to really know what they're talking about. So all your communications are showing your knowledge and showing that you really do know the facts about how things work or whatever. Another way you could take it is you could be an explorer brand. So talking about the same thing, a building company, you could say, we're an explorer brand. So now I'm expecting something a bit out there. So this is Apple. Apple are an explorer brand. They're always new to market. They're always first to release new and different technologies. And we're waiting with anticipation to see what's coming next from them. This is something that a building company can do as well. We might be surprised and delighted by the buildings that you create, the buildings that you construct. So, you know, obviously, then you need to think, you can imagine there, you need to think, well, which architects am I going to partner with so that that's what I get associated with? Because there's an architect involved in that process. So if I'm going to be an explorer brand, I need to work with a certain type of architect. So it's now directing decisions that you're making for the business. Nothing to do with marketing, to do with business choices that you're going to make. Then you might say, so Carl mentioned that he likes a challenge. He maybe likes, you know, renovation projects. So maybe he's more of a heritage brand, or, you know, maybe he's more of a guardian. It's about preserving brands. I don't know if that's true, Carl, because I've only just met you, but I'm picking on you a lot tonight, so apologies for that. But I just remember what you said there, and I think, okay, so maybe Carl's a guardian brand, so maybe the tone of his marketing needs to be more reassuring, and he talks about the care that they take in a building, and, you know, how they're going to be by your side in this process, this building that you love, and we're going to put love and care and attention into that. So the language is different. Yeah, the choice of architect that Kyle works with is different, and it's the brand personality that's directing that choice. I hope that makes sense. And And then other things that you can have in your brand strategy are your creative ideas. So you can use all sorts of fun, creative marketing ideas to bring that to life. And then telling a story, getting a clear message, bringing in emotion are all the techniques that come in. We've only got an hour tonight, and you're starting to build up the picture. There's quite a lot to this process. So just to mention that those things are there. And then I've written 3 things at the end. So at the beginning, you'll remember I said your brand is what stays in other people's minds about your business. Yeah. So if you were just to pick 3 things that everybody could remember and think about when it comes to your business, what would those 3 things be? Yeah. So have a think about that. So for me, my 3 things are the letter B. So it's always on the screen there. You always see it wherever you look. The other thing is me. I want you to remember me. So wherever you find my marketing, it is plastered with pictures of me. If you've ever come across B as for brand, you know what Ailsa Stinson looks like, so that you can recognize me again and again and again. And the third thing is I talk about achieve brand clarity, get to grips with the ABCs of branding. That's my message. And those are the only 3 things that I ever share and talk about with people who don't know me before they get to know me. And I want those things to stay in other people's minds. So what would be your 3 things? It doesn't have to be your logo. Your logo definitely doesn't have to be one of the things. It might be a saying or a tagline or a slogan. It might be the type of building that you want to be known for. You might want to be famous for working on one particular type of building. It might be the colors that you use. So I'm picking that Carl's brand is probably red, I'm guessing. Yeah, there we go. So he's branding himself, right? And when I will recognize Carl when I try and find him on LinkedIn or whatever, because I'll see the brand. Yeah, go on, Carl.
Our surname is Redman.
There we go. So he's tied it all together. And so that's making it easy for people to remember. So you've gone with red, you've leaned into what was already there with your surname. You've not gone for blue as your logo and your red man, and people go, oh, I can't remember what, I'm confused. People are very easily confused. So you've got to take the line of least resistance, follow the curve of the, what do you call it, as the water falls downhill sort of thing. Go with that and build your brand around that to help people remember and understand what your brand is. Yeah, so figure out what you want those 3 things to be. There's this thing called the power of 3 or the rule of 3. Most people remember things in 3s. And actually this goes for your messages that you put out there. So if you've got messages that you want people to remember, don't have 10 messages or 6, have 3. Have 3 messages, because people forget what the 4th one is. They can't retain that much information. And the same goes for your brand values as well. Just so we know on values, I have a few rules around values, and if you ever work with me, be prepared to be told off if you have any of the boring ones on my list. I've got a list of brand values that are not allowed. You're not allowed to tell me things that don't add any value. You're not allowed to tell me things that I had already assumed about you. So I've got a few little rules around values, and I really like the businesses that I work with to express what their values are in their own voice, in their own words, the way that only you could uniquely say them. So I want to be able to tell that they belong to your business and that no other business could possibly have those values. And if your values don't reflect that at the moment, then you probably need to do a bit more work on them. And then you want people to read those values and go, oh, that's what it's going to be like to do business with that company. Right, I get it. Okay, now I'm going to make a decision based on those brand values. Am I in? Am I not in? Yeah, am I in that tribe? Do I want to work with that company, or are they not my people? And it's best to find that out before you start working together, because we've all had those clients that we really don't gel with, and it's just a pain in the neck, and all we want to do is get the job finished and get rid of them. So your values can help you avoid that situation and find the right people to work with who you're going to get along with, and that makes everybody's life easier. Okay, here's a client example just to bring it to life. So this is not a building company, but this is a building project that I then was brought in to brand. So this young couple here, they bought a kind of very ordinary 1990s bungalow on the Isle of Skye. And in the back garden, there was a garage. And this chap here, Matt, is a builder. And so he did the work himself, and he did an absolutely fabulous job. I mean, really outstandingly beautiful job, which I'll show you a couple of pictures in a minute. But he's not a marketing expert. And so he reached out for some help. And I had worked on another local project, and word of mouth got around. And he asked me to get involved. So we did everything on this project from naming this brand. So they wanted to have something unique that would really stand out. So we came up with this name, Skuyo. Skuyo is an Old Norse name for the Isle of Skye, and it means cloud island. So what we were doing was linking the Isle of Skye to the Scandi roots of Skye. But actually within the building, we also then carried that through. So we brought Scandinavian design features into the building so that the name and what you then see inside all makes sense together. Okay, and then we talked about the kind of purpose of the brand, the why that we talked about earlier, to enable a hygge moment for every guest. So if you know about the concept of hygge, or hygge apparently is how you say it, you know, that coorie thing, that's a Scottish word as well. It just means snuggly and cozy, right? A special moment of connection. So this holiday property is just for 2 people. So when you go there, they've done everything they can to make it nice and cozy and romantic so that you can make romantic memories there and have a hygge moment. So we want to make a hygge moment for every guest. That's what the brand stands for. Okay, and their big goal is that basically they don't have to do marketing anymore. People just talk about this place so much, and they feel that they had such a special time that they recommend it to everyone they know, and guests return year on year, and that's their big goal. And their values were simplicity, nature, warmth, and inner calm. So already you should start to get a sense of what's it like when I go there. If those are the values, simplicity, okay, there's going to be simple design, and you know, it's not going to be all bright wallpapers. It's going to feel nice and simple, natural. It's going to be warm. I saw a log fire in a wood burning stove in that last picture, and oh, I'm going to feel nice and I want to feel like that. I live in a stressful environment. I have, you know, a busy job. I want to feel like that. Okay, I'm in. I want to go into this website and book my stay. Okay. Yeah, so then we kind of carry that story on and talk about the meeting of cultures and bringing that together. And we do that visually with the photographs as well. We show hygge moments and hot chocolates and Scandinavian candles and all that kind of thing. And we talk about the hospitality. And here's a few more pictures so you can see what it actually looks like inside. So you can see what a fantastic job they've done. They've got this lovely Juliet balcony there, and upstairs is a mezzanine level with a glass balustrade. And it's very simple, but they've brought in these Scandi elements of layering and textures and, you know, just very simple Scandinavian design. Okay. And then we also bring that into what the brand looks like online. So the website, the social media. So we chose really simple fonts for the logo. There's no fancy schmancy, and it's very kind of stylish and elegant and simple. Okay. And the language as well. So the tone of voice that we use, it has this kind of simple lilting elegance to it, and it sounds very calming and very kind of, you know, you just feel like you've been transported into this little bubble of Scandinavian Scotland. So I'm going on and on now, but you're getting the idea. Okay, and so we went through this process. We went through the process of getting clear about what we wanted the brand to stand for, and then bringing in this creative concept of hygge and bringing this Isle of Skye and Scandinavia together. And then we wrote this strategy together around all of that. And we thought about the 3 things that we wanted people to remember. the visual language and the way of doing things. And, you know, that's the process that we go through. I also want to show you, because I'm going on about something that's not necessarily relevant to your market. I'm going to stop sharing this presentation. I also want to show you how that might look for a construction company. So let me just pull up a website and share my screen. Give me 2 seconds, and then I'm going to let you guys talk after that. There we go. Okay, so here's a builder that's local to me. Hopefully you can see this. And when I first met this builder, his name isn't George Innes, by the way. His name is Alan Murray. Do you know Alan Murray, Stuart Mason?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So Alan Murray is a local guy here. He's worked for various of the construction companies. And he bought this business, George Innes, and he's the third owner of the business. So George Innes was a guy who was around in the 60s, and he started the company. And I first met Alan when he'd gone to get a new website done. And he said to the website developer, I need to rename the business. And she said, why do you need to do that? And he said, well, my name's Alan Murray, and the business is called George Innes, and this is confusing people. So that's when I was brought in. That one of the golden rules in branding is that consistency is key, and you never throw the baby out with the bathwater. So this business had been in operation since the 60s, and people knew George Innes Builders. And what's more, online, people knew the website georgeinnes.co.uk. And so what we do not want to do is lose all of that reputation that's been built up around that business. So that was actually the central thing. So I talked Alan through that, and how actually it doesn't matter that he's called Alan, because there's 25, 30 people who work for that company, and it doesn't matter that the company's named George Innes, and George Innes is no longer part of anything. That doesn't matter. It didn't look anything like this when I first came across him. He had a picture of the West Beach Lighthouse, which is a lighthouse Stuart will know, but none of you, but we live by the coast. So there was a picture of a lighthouse and a pile of bricks that looked like basically they had tumbled down and fallen into the sea, and some very, very old photographs of the beach. And it talked about the history of the company was the first thing that you saw on the homepage. So talking about in 1963, George Innes, the local guy, yawn, 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 who cares? I've fallen asleep already. This is not why I came here. So this is what I was talking about in the beginning when I said to you, don't talk about you and the history of the company, immediately talk about the customer and the problem they came to solve. So this is what we fixed with Alan's website. We talked about, so he's aiming at his commercial and industrial. I think we're on the commercial page here actually, but he's focusing on commercial clients, yeah, at the moment. So he's got commercial right up front so that you can recognize yourself there, and you can see his commercial projects, and we can click on that and we can see the kinds of things that Alan has worked on for local companies and immediately see what he's been doing. Here are his commercial projects. So very famous Johnson's Woolen Mill, which everybody in our area will know, and he's talking about the projects that he worked on there, and then you can click on see more. But also you'll notice here he's got his values. So he's got these little things here that tell you a bit more about what it's like to work with George Innes Builders. He has he talks about dedication, organization, communication, and skill. Now, arguably they're quite boring values, but when you're talking to the construction industry and it's a B2B relationship, these are skills that people are looking for, and he can demonstrate that he has all of these skills. And these are actually things that do make him stand out from the crowd, because probably some of these contractors, some of these companies going to work for, have had bad experiences where it wasn't organized, where there wasn't good communication, where the builders weren't dedicated and didn't have the right skills to do the job. So he is really focused on making a big deal about that. He does also work with domestic projects. So here's an example of a project that Alan has worked on. And if you take a look at his logo in the top left there, you'll see what we've gone for there, so we identified his target audience as being the Karens of Elgin. So I don't know if you know what that phrase actually means, but to be a Karen is a certain type of woman. And and so people who basically well, anyway, I'm not going to start being rude about types of women. But if we think of it as keeping up with the Joneses, so it's the woman who lives on a housing estate who wants to have a slightly better extension than her next door neighbour. That was who he was targeting. And this extension that you're looking at here, believe it or not, is on a pretty ordinary housing estate in Elgin. It's in the middle of Elgin, and it's in, you know, a home that is on a street alongside other houses. It's a 4-bedroom house. You would not know from the front that it looks anything like this inside. And this lady has now got the absolutely most glamorous house on the street. So we knew that's who we were targeting. Women who want to have the best extension, because he is not the cheapest builder on the market. You pay a premium price to work with George Innes builders because you get dedication and quality and skill and good communication, and those are his values. So we made the brand look like Chanel. We took the influence from Chanel because Chanel is a brand that Karen is looking at on a daily basis. So we were thinking about Gucci, Chanel, Fendi, all these handbags and perfumes and things like that. What will Karen see? Because believe you me, it is Karen who's making the decision about who's building her extension. So we want Karen to visit this website and see this amazing extension that Alan has done and say, this is what I want. I don't care what it costs, Bill. This is the one we're having. Yeah, because then by the time Alan goes round to do the quote, Bill's already been talked into it, and Bill knows that come hell or high water, as long as Karen likes Alan when he turns up, this is the company they're going with. So, you know, that's what we're trying to achieve there. So I'll stop sharing now, because I think I've probably used most of the time, and I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. I hope you find that useful. I did kind of bombard you with information there. There's a lot to building a strong brand, but if you could just remember that your brand is only what stays in other people's minds about your business, that it's built of a strategy, an image, and an experience, and that you need to be clear, consistent, creative, and in control. That's what you need to know from tonight's presentation. I hope that's helpful. I'm Ailsa from B is for Brand, and I help small businesses like you to achieve brand clarity, and I call that getting to grips with the ABCs of branding. And if you want to work with me, then visit bisforbrand.com. Thanks, Stuart. I'm done.
Excellent, Ailsa. Ailsa, that's absolutely brilliant. And you know what? You finished it off with something that I think is so powerful, and something that I find very challenging with not just construction, but small business owners, where price is the main focus. And what you did there with George Innes was show that we position value first with price in the background. Too many businesses do it the opposite way. It's price first and then value. So that was a great way to finish it, and it reinforces what I say to every client I work with. Price. People don't buy price. See, they don't want people that buy price. You want, people buying value, not price. So thank you for sharing that. And before I hand over just for questions from everybody else, because I know Carl's got a question there. One of the things that I want to hammer home, and I'm sure you'll agree, Ailsa, is I hear quite a lot, and my business is really quite small, it's only me, it's only a couple of people, brand's not important. It's the opposite. It's the case, obviously, because it's a brand that builds the business. Ailsa, that's been absolutely fantastic. I've learned loads. Thought I knew it all. I mean, honestly, I thought I knew it all. And I've been writing down here. I'm on Remarkable on page 7. So, any questions for Ailsa? Carol, do you have the hand up there?
I was just going to say, I got asked to by a lady to price up an extension. And as I walked there, hello, I'm Carl from Redmond and Redmond. And she said, I'm telling you now, I'm getting 5 builders in and I'll be going with the cheapest. And I just said, it won't be me. I'll save you the time.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of you will save you the time. Fantastic. Buy cheap, buy twice.
Mhm.
Good example. Anybody else got any other questions for Ailsa? Anything in the chat box? No. Ailsa, here's a question for you then, because you've seen it all. What are the common mistakes that we tend to make as small business owners? What's the common mistakes we tend to make as small business owners when it comes to our brand?
Oh gosh, quite a lot of things. But I guess you've covered one of them, which is thinking that brand isn't for a small company, thinking that that's just something for the big guys. And in actual fact, it's more important when you're a small company to get your brand right and have a brand strategy, because it saves you time, money, and effort. And we want to do that, right? when we're small business owners and we're doing it all ourselves, we want to save time, money, and effort. Just to go back over how, because it might have got lost in everything that I said. How does it save you time, money, and effort? Okay, so you write the strategy, and in the strategy, you write the things that you want to say about your business. And then you don't have to write anything else. That's it. You just repeat that. What you did in that one exercise that maybe took a couple of days or whatever to get that all out on paper. Now it's copy and paste. So yesterday, 2 days ago, Rona from Lifestyle, it's a magazine our way, guys. Rona from Lifestyle said, have you got something for my business women? I've got a space, a page come up, and you said you wanted a page. And I literally copied and pasted from the brand strategy and sent it to her with a photo. And so I got a feature in the magazine at short notice, didn't have to give it any thought. Whereas if I didn't have that to hand, I might have been inclined to go, oh, actually, I haven't got an hour to do that today. I haven't got time, blah, 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 blah. And I missed the opportunity to get my business out there. That it's a networking organization that I'm in, guys. And so yeah. So it's really important as a really small business to use that tool. Your brand is a tool to help you save time. And when you've got those words written down, you can copy and paste them, you start to be more consistent. When you start to be more consistent, people start to notice you. And you talked about all the noise, Stuart, and how do you stand out from the crowd and all that noise. Consistency is one of the most important things. Yeah. Saying the same thing over and over and over again. There used to be this old rule that I heard about, you have to repeat things 8 times before people will see it or buy. It's absolute nonsense. You know how much noise there is these days with all the social media platforms, all the television channels, all the radio stations you could listen to, all the places you could be. It's something more like 22 times before somebody even notices your message. You have to repeat again and again and again and again and again. And just about the point when you're absolutely boring yourself to tears, you're cringing, thinking, I cannot possibly repeat this one more time. I am being such a broken record. That's the moment when someone goes, I think Carl's got a business called Redman and Redman. I think I recognize that that's the moment when you've saturated them with information. Oh, I think it's a building company. I might need a builder. That it's repetition is the most important thing. And if you've written in your strategy and you make sure you're putting the same thing out there again and again and again, then you don't need to keep paying for it. You can do it yourself as a small business owner.
Absolutely brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, I've got some work to do with my brand, definitely. So, anybody else, any other questions, or will we wrap up at that? Carol, on you go.
Just on the absolutely swamped social media, I am trying and teaching my son, who is of the social media generation, that we need to go back from advertising on social media because everybody's there. And I think going back to marketing using the old values of word of mouth, of getting our custom from our customers. And that is all. And this is what I said right at the very beginning. The red we use red obviously because it's our name, Redman, and we've got red on our registration plate of the van. But it's also high vis as well. But it's everything that goes through. And not only do we want our work and our attitude and the way that we perform to be memorable, we also want the way that we look to be memorable, which sticks in the mind of our clients, which then will recommend. And we very much have got the job before we price the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with you on that, Carl. And I've spent all of this year telling people to get off social media and go out into the real world and make relationships with people and get word of mouth going and that kind of thing. It is too noisy in social media land. It is very, very hard to stand out. That example that I showed you with George Innes Builders, I created an Instagram page for them and they have a Facebook page, but they never spend any time on it. And, you know, it's still probably got the 16 posts that I put on there when I first launched it. And he's absolutely chock-a-block busy. He hasn't got time to take any more clients on because of word of mouth. Yeah. Now, it's great to have a fancy schmancy website. That is pretty good because the first thing you'll do when your friend says, oh, you should get Redmond and Redmond in, they'll look you up. So you need the shop window, but you don't need to be that active on there if you've got the word of mouth going. So you do need to have something there so that when they arrive there, it's consistent. They go, oh, I'm in the right place. Yeah. Oh, this looks professional, or this looks like high quality, or whatever the words are that you want people to think about your business. You've got to try and get that across in your shop window. But you don't need to be constantly posting and networking and filling TikTok land and whatever.
Well, one of the other things that you need to know, certainly about Facebook business pages, when you get over 1,000 likes, they strangle your post because they then want you to pay for posts. So with our Facebook page, I think we've got 350 likes on it. And I've been very careful to make sure that them likes are actually from our area, from home owners who are a little bit older, so that we're actually, when we do post, it's going to our target market.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And so the reviews bit of that is probably the most important. And then the photos section, you know, it doesn't matter how many likes, that's a vanity metric. Having 350 is absolutely fine. You know, it doesn't matter having thousands of likes. But one of the most one of the most underused, I guess, social media platforms is Google. Getting your Google profile sorted is really, really important because that's where most customers end up. They go onto Google and they put in builders in your area, and you want to be coming up there and you want to have good reviews there. So asking for Google reviews is really important. And you can actually use the Google business feature as a bit of a social media thing. So you can put your best photographs on there, you can put a special offer on there, all that kind of thing. You make sure that you've got that sorted out, and make sure that you've registered the business so that it appears on Google Maps, so that you come up in that little search. Those little things are probably where I'd focus time and attention if you were looking at doing something online.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay. Any other questions, comments, suggestions, anything at all? Happy with that? No?
I'm probably more confused now than I was when I started.
Oh no.
Because I mean, I'm not in the construction, I'm more services orientated. So if I can fill out 4 pages of A4 on what I do, and it's how to consolidate that to make people not fall asleep. And that's as I'm doing more of this, it becomes more of a problem of how I actually explain what I do. There's no elevator pitch here because it's just too many things. In each case of you want to tell everything, but you can't. So it's a real maze.
Mm-hmm. So just one takeaway on that would be, for each of your different types of customer, focus on the main thing that you can help them do, the main change that you can make for them to take them from this state to that state, and try and describe that. So it's okay to have lots of messages, but when you're talking to those people, only say that one. And when you're talking to another type of customer, only say that one. And they only need to probably know the top one in the initial conversation. So obviously it's a funnel, there's different stages. There's the stage where they've never heard of you, and then the stage when they first see you and you want to catch them and them think, oh, actually, that might be for me. Yeah. So it's getting the one clear message in front of them there. And that might be different. So with a website, you can have different landing pages so that different people putting different Google searches in can come in from different angles to your website, and you just have that one clear message there. Yeah.
At least I understood what you said, but I'd never be able to do it.
Yeah. So that's where people like me exist. You can pay someone else to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Why
I'd be
do
out
it
of a
yourself?
job if everyone could do it for themselves. I'd be out of a job. So
Well, the
Valid
same
point
thing.
about
It's the same thing with
landing
all of
pages
us.
as well. Very valid point there about the landing pages as well, Ailsa. Good reminder. Separate landing pages. Keep it simple.
yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid. Excellent. Okay, anybody else? We'll wrap up at that. All good? Excellent. So once again, Ailsa, your website is?
It's B is for brand.com. So BISFORBRAND.com. B is for brand.com.
Is for brand.com. Excellent. I'll be emailing everybody attended anyway and giving them that link. So absolutely fantastic. Ailsa, as always, that has been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us. And we'll all go now and get some brand clarity.
Thanks
Thank you.
very much for inviting me. It was lovely
Super.
to meet
Thanks very
you.
much. And thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you found that helpful and took plenty of notes. Thanks again.
Bye.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks.